Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I am playing some Battlefield 3, playing some Conquest Domination on Scrap Metal and Conquest on Bandar Desert, and today guys it is question time, part 37. As always guys, you have submitted some superb questions and a few challenges, and this week I will be playing and answering your great questions and challenges in the best way I can and the most honest way and all the rest. You'll note that my introduction is a little different this time, and that's quite deliberately so. Reason being that I've decided to try something a little bit different and we'll see what happens. Basically, those of you who've been following the channel for a little while remember I did a little series called Challenge Chuggy, which actually alternated with question time back in the day, as it were, and well, I've decided let's try and combine the two, since you guys want to see Challenge Chuggy come back and I want to bring it back. So what I propose we do from here on in is, instead of me just having generic Battlefield or Counter-Strike, whatever it is I've been playing gameplay, you guys set me a challenge, be it in Battlefield 3 or whatever else, we'll see what happens, and yeah, I'll try and play it out, and well, hopefully a cool gameplay will appear. Now today I've got two gameplays, as you have heard me mention, one here on Scrap Metal, and one in a moment on Bandar Desert, and they were suggested by Blown Tire and Michael Elving, and Blown Tire suggested this particular challenge, which was to use the 870 MCS or SPAS 12 with any sort of optic, but using frag rounds, to use the M320 buck, defib, and squad frag specialization, and basically told me to just go nuts, enjoy the loadout, and that's what you'll be seeing here. In the second match, you'll see a sort of kit suggestion or challenge from Michael Elving, and they asked me to use the Scar Light, a holographic sight, underslung rail and suppressor with the M1911 suppressed, again the M320 buck, and to play as obviously the assault on Bandar Desert, and the only vehicle I could use, if any, was a buggy, which I took to be the quad bike. And basically you're going to be seeing how I got on with those kits, and to briefly mention my experiences with them. So first of all, this SPAS 12, it's an amazing shotgun in general. It's my favourite shotgun in general, along with I think probably the best shotgun you can get in Battlefield 3. And putting frag rounds on it, it's something I've not actually done before. Actually, it really paid off, as you've seen. Playing close quarters, obviously, you've got the guys who put C4 on flags and whatnot. Yeah, easy kills, easy points, and the M320 buck is just as lethal as I remember it from Bad Company 2. My go-to layout or setup on Bad Company 2 when I was playing the assault was the M16 4 times and the M320 buck, because then I could do the long range, I could do the close range, just as lethal. And yeah, I really enjoyed this particular map and match. And actually, it was funny. The whole reason you're seeing this gameplay is I came across some glitches. You'll know this if you follow me on Twitter. I came across some glitches, and I had another game which I wanted to use, but they were doing glitching whatnots, and obviously I don't want to upload that to show off how to do it. But I have reported said parties to EA, and well, they are investigating. Hopefully they will be given a big old slap on the wrist. Anyway, I digress. Enjoy the challenge. Thank you very much guys for suggesting it. If you have a kit you'd like me to try and talk about, please do feel free to include it in the comments below. Now, let's get on to some questions this week, shall we? And to briefly mention the questions, if you have anything you'd like me to answer, be it gaming, life, or anything in between, all you have to do is pop it down as well in the comments below. And that is what these lovely ladies and gentlemen have done. And the first question this week will come from Mr. Brian86. And they ask, what do I think about Lewis Hamilton and his first win for Mercedes at Hungary in the Formula 1? Will it put him back in the title fight for the World Drivers' Championship? And in short, yeah, I think it will. Lewis is not a quitter, he is a proper racing driver, and it was a superb drive. He was saying before the race that he thought he needed a miracle to win that race. He didn't. He had the talent, the technique, the strategy paid off beautifully, and he deservedly won that race. Others could have taken the race, but they weren't able to get through the field or get the tyres to work for him, whatever else. I think, for instance, Grosjean was quite unlucky, but that's motor racing, it's not always fair. So Lewis, do not count him out. Great that he's won his first race for Mercedes. I'll be totally honest, I thought he was a fool to go from McLaren to Mercedes, but he's having a last laugh now. He's having a tremendous season and showing off why he is a driver of his calibre and class. So yeah, very impressed. Roll on Spa in a few weeks. So Mr. Brian, thank you very much for that great question there. Next two questions come from Conan Welsh, and they ask what I think of the F1 2013 footage, and what do I think about the poor form of Sauber and Williams. Well, I'll talk about Sauber and Williams first. Again, Formula 1 teams. It's a great shame, two great racing teams who have fallen upon hard times. Now, I have more sympathy for Sauber than Williams. Williams, I remember back to when I first started to properly follow Formula 1 when I was, if you will, well, I wouldn't say conscious, but I was more aware of what was going on. There's Kill Assist 100, god damn it, game. Never mind, forgot my train of thought. No, talking about Williams. When I first started to properly follow Formula 1, when I was able to actually realise the implementation, cool blimey, tongue twister, the cause and effect, I'll just dodged the word completely, of what was going on was back in the early 90s when Williams, they were producing cars which were amazing. I mean, admittedly, a year or two before my time, but for instance, I'm going to get the car name wrong here, but the car that Williams used in 1992, which, kaboom, had, electronic suspension and all the rest, it was just amazing that the team were able to produce that motor vehicle, and, they were incredibly successful with it. You look at them now, and they're a shadow of their former selves, which is a great shame. The more competitive teams are in the sport, the better it is for us, the spectators, and that's what I'm personally interested in. Having said that, I think Williams have made some poor choices. For instance, I'm not very keen on pay drivers. As I said in the last question time, I'm more than happy to kind of accept the fact that if it will keep a team in, they might have to hire a pay driver. But Mr. Bottas, he's had a superb season. I'm impressed with him, but I'm still, I wouldn't say anti-Maldonado, but I'm not very keen Maldonado. Just that, his attitude in general. Never mind. I think Williams, with a bit of time, the right people, the right amount of money, putting it frankly, they'll be back on form. So I hope that is the case. Now, as for Sauber, again, it's another kind of interesting case that they're kind of in a bit of a pickle. Now, they've always had some close affiliation with a major sponsor, be it, for instance, BMW or as it is now with, not as it is now, but back in the early 2000s, they were very, very close with Petronas, who are, I think, they're a Malaysian oil company. I'm going to get that wrong. They've always had some pretty big sponsors, and they've always been linked to some major, I don't know, groups, be it advertisers or car companies, whatever else. And I just find it sad that they're a shadow of their former selves. Now, last year's car was superb. You could see the fact that young Sergio Perez and Kamui, they were getting consistent point finishes, which is how you win championships and get significant revenue from Formula 1. And again, it's just a case of they're not quite there. Might be drivers, might be team situation again. I just hope they get back on form, and more competitive racing is all good in my eyes. So a great shame, really, to wrap up the speech. What do I think about F1 2013? As I've said before, it looks nice, and Formula 1, or the Formula 1 games that Codemasters produce are superb. The problem is that they're full of bugs. And it seems every year Codemasters do the same thing, which is add some sort of token functionality and not fix the bugs. If Cody's fixed the issues they've got with the AI doing silly things, or the penalty system doing silly things, or the physics being silly, they will have a superb racing game, which I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people will enjoy. But because they just don't seem to acknowledge the fact that they've got a lot of bugs, and that they don't fix the bugs, it's doing them no favours. So I'm interested, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it day one, as I have done all the other Cody's titles in the Formula 1 space. I am going to leave it and see what happens. I played the demo of 2012 and thought, they finally turned a corner. This is a good experience. Full game was nothing like it in reality, which was a great shame. So, bug fixes, Cody's, please, and you will have me seriously interested, much more so than announcing the Champions mode or showing off old school retro Formula 1 cars. Show me the bug fixes, show me the basically the ability to show off the amazing game which is there, then I'm interested. So Conan, thank you very much for your questions there. Next question comes from Trey Kariba, and they ask, if I ever had the chance to work for a Formula 1 team of my choice, would I take it? Yes. Sport I love with, for instance, more than likely I wouldn't be a driver. I don't have the ability or aptitude for that. But, as someone working on computer systems, absolutely. Ability to travel the world as well, I wouldn't mind that. So yes, is the short and simple answer, Trey. Thank you very much for your question. Next question comes from Mad Junk Boy, and they ask, with all the current game capture sort of cards and systems, your Elgatos, your Hopogs, etc., on the market, will any of them be able to record next-gen game consoles, and if not, why not? Good question, and well, we actually do kind of have an answer on the Xbox front. Microsoft have confirmed that they will not have HDCP on when you're playing games. Now, what the heck is HDCP? Well, this is really kind of the joker in the pack, the elephant in the room with this stuff. Now, if any of you have got a PS3 and an Elgato game capture, you will note in the instructions and everything else that you will not be able to record from HDMI. Reason being is there is this thing called HDCP, and what it stands for is High Definition Copyright something, protection, I think. And basically what it is an encryption protocol. Your games console in this case encrypts the video and audio, and only your TV can decrypt it, or a piece of hardware or software which has the decoder in it. Now, they don't hand these decoders out willy-nilly, and the game capture equipment and things like that do not have the decoder in them. So really, if HDCP is there, you're going to need to get something which gets rid of that encoding, the encryption. And that is kind of what we need to know is or is not there. Now, this is what Microsoft have confirmed. They will not have the HDCP, so you'll be able to plug your Elgato straight in and you'll be able to record Xbox One, no problem. So far, Sony have made no comment, although they do have, and in fact this is true with both consoles, they have sort of native on-system recording. Now, I'll be totally honest, I don't want to have to record and edit and everything on my console. I've got dedicated hardware and software for that. I want to get the content off it. So I believe that there are rumours going around that the PS4 will allow you to export your media from the hard disk, or even not have HDCP in the first place as well, although none of that's confirmed. But the Xbox, no HDCP. So all the current capture cards, if they work via HDMI, will work. If any of them, I don't think the Xbox One, the PS4 certainly doesn't have sort of a component out, an analog out, which doesn't have this encryption. That will work, but at this point in time, we don't know about the PS4, but the Xbox One, you will be able to use your current equipment, which is awesome. So Mad Junk Boy, thank you very much for that question. Hopefully that answers that for you. Next question comes from Arsenal 2022, and they ask, what do I think about the sort of DLC from Battlefield 3, and what do I think is my sort of favourite? Good question. Now, the nice thing about the DLC that DICE have brought us with Battlefield 3 is it's quite a range, a spectrum of styles. You've got close quarters here, you've got armoured kill in a moment, very close quarters maps, very infantry focused to vehicle focused, huge tactical play maps. Then you've got DLCs like Aftermath and Endgame, which are a bit of both, but they have their own sort of unique flares and twists. And of course you had Back to Karkand right at the start, bringing some classic Battlefield 2 maps to the fore. Picking one out of all of those is quite tricky, but I think one does just stand above the rest, and that is Aftermath for me. I don't know, it's just something about the destroyed environments, the crossbow, the map's design in general actually, I just think worked really well, and I really did enjoy, do enjoy playing on sort of the Aftermath servers if I'm on there, or whatever else the case may be. So Aftermath for me I think was the best, closely followed by Endgame. I think the capture the flag mode with the dirt bikes, you could get some real team play in there, so I enjoyed that a lot as well. So Aftermath for me, closely followed by Endgame, so I think I'll wrap that up like that. Thank you very much, Arsenal, for your great question there. Next question comes from Mr. Ruby1000, and they ask, what are my thoughts on Pepsi versus Cola? And I'll presume Coca-Cola in that aspect. Well, a bit of a shocker here, I don't like fizzy drinks, so I can't really answer. That's a lie, I do like lemonade, but that's the only fizzy thing I will drink. I don't like Coke or Cola or anything like that, so I can't really answer, to be honest. Always been more of a water person. Yeah, I'm boring like that. But having said this, actually, I have drunk some Pepsi in the past and some Cola in the past, and I must admit I did prefer Coca-Cola, although I didn't really like either much, so Brief answer, Coke. Short answer, neither. Mr. Ruby, thank you very much for your great question there. Next question comes from Gatecrasher, and they ask, what setup do I and the other people in the TSA sim racing team have in terms of for sim racing? You know, be it wheel, pad, keyboard, etc. What I think is the best or easiest to use? Well, put simply, in terms of the actual equipment we've got, myself, Tom, and I think Cam as well have Logitech G27 steering wheels. Phil has a G25. Now this is where the difference comes. Both James and Mike's, who will be joining us in the GRC next season, they both use DualShock 3s. And really, which is the best to use or the easiest to use really depends on your, well, first of all, budget, but also realistically the amount of space you've got. I personally think the best way to sim race is with a wheel, with a clutch, with gear stick, all the rest, because you're much more connected to the car, you can do a lot more with it. A controller is much more practical, you don't need much space. A wheel, you obviously need somewhere to clamp it, and on all the rest, and it's expensive. Controller, you don't get as much feedback, but it's more, well, it's smaller, it's more compact, and it's perhaps a bit more familiar. But really, I personally think a wheel. I think that's just me, you know, in terms of you get the precision and all the rest, and that's what I'm after personally. If you can afford it, I definitely would go with a wheel. Our G27 is a great piece of kit, although very expensive. And yeah, I just think a wheel offers more, personally, but other people do successfully race with controllers and have a great time as well. So, yep, it's really, I would say, if you've got a controller, give it a go with that, and if you want to try out a wheel, you know, there are plenty out there, and the G27, if you've looking to do this long term, is, I think, the way to go. So, Gatecrasher, thank you very much for the question. Hopefully you'll find that useful. Next question comes from, or next two questions come from Bob Martin, and they ask, have I found that Battlefield recently there's been a lot of rubber banding, and am I going to go for a service star with every single weapon? So first of all, from what I've played of Battlefield, actually no, I haven't had too much rubber banding, although I have had it where you have been playing Battlefield, it's been perfectly fine, then you'll just start to rubber band lag all over the place, and it's just the server, for whatever reason, having a bad day. Unfortunately, you know, it happens, and, you know, if it's really bad, you jump out the game, you find another server. It's just one of those things, really. So, I haven't recently, but I have in the past, and it's really rather annoying. I can sympathise there. Am I going to go for a server star with every single weapon? Probably not. Now, I have mentioned in the past, I think I must get hit by this tank destroyer, which knocks me for 6. The weapons, you guys will know, I don't tend to use the same weapon over and over again. I tend to like, you know, a bit of variance, a little bit of variety, which is why I think that, you know, you guys suggesting weapons and kits for me to use is a neat idea, just to get, you know, a little more variety into Battlefield before Battlefield 4 arrives. I don't know if I will, to be honest. I mean, it's you know, I've gotten used basically to the weapons I do use, even though I use you know, quite a variety depending on the situation. I'm not sure if I'd want to start again almost with you know, learning weapons and unlocking things and whatnot. I mean, I have had some success with this, to be brutally fair. For instance, using the SV98. I never used to use it before a few months ago, and now I quite like it actually as kind of a close quarters weapon. So in short, no, I probably won't, but not because of you know, I don't particularly want to do it, but I think it's just in terms of the time before Battlefield 4, when of course, you know, the new shiny Battlefield will be there, as I've got some weird body glitch going on there, will be here. I'm not going to get a chance to serve a star with everything, which is unfortunate, but that's the way these things go. So Bob, thank you very much for your great questions there. Next question comes from Louch, and they ask, would I like to see Battlefield and the Battlefield series making a return to a futuristic session, a la Battlefield 2142, not 1942, as a change of scenery from the sort of current modern you know, shooters which are currently available? Why not? I mean, so DICE have got form in this in the past. They introduced Titan mode, which was amazing. If you're not sure what Titan mode is, basically, I think it's kind of like Conquest in terms of you've got points and things to take, but it's an enemy base, and if you destroy it, it's basically like a massive flying aircraft carrier, for want of a better term, and you take all the bits, the thing starts to explode, and you have to get off it, and although I've never played 2142, when I've watched friends play it sort of at LAN parties or whatever else, I've been kind of like, that's cool. You know, if that made a return in Battlefield 4, that would be awesome. Maybe, you know, aircraft carriers or whatever else. So yeah, I don't see why not. Battlefield 4 obviously we know is modern day. There's a lot of demand to go back to the Bad Company universe, so that will also be modern day. But you never know with these things. DICE are branching out in terms of, well, they now have a quote-unquote studio out in LA. It's I think it's what remains of Splash Damage, who did the Medal of Honor series. So once they are up and running, I think they're doing the Battlefront series, but there could be some sharing of work between there and Stockholm, and well, you never know, we might see 2143 in the near future. Let's hope so. So Louch, thank you very much for that question there. Next question comes from Sneaky Dragon 22, and they ask, what car would I most like to have as a poster on my wall? Good question. So when I was living with my parents, I actually had 3 cars actually as it was my ceiling of my room. One being the Aston Martin DBR S9, purely because of, well, it's a beautiful car and has an amazing soundtrack. The Ferrari FXX, which was again a little bit to do with looks, although it's not a particularly pretty car. But again, technology, and well, it's quite an amazing sounding car. But finally, there was one car which, even to this day, even if I could see it, I would be, jaw to the floor, and that's the McLaren F1. And that's what I would put on my wall today. 240 odd miles an hour in a carve-out turbocharger, designed in the 1990s. It's quite an amazing machine, and it's gorgeous to look at as well. Yeah, McLaren F1 for me, every single day of the week, I think. Just a beautiful car, goes very quick, British, it's just win-win. So Sneaky Dragon, thank you very much for the question. Hopefully that answers that for you there. Next question comes from CJ Cartman, and they ask, what are my opinions of McLaren's sort of performance and development in Formula 1 this year? Well, definitely, they've got to look hard on themselves. They're not where they should be. They should be pushing Red Bull and Ferrari at the front of the field. Having said that, they're starting to recover. They did show some good signs in Hungary, and Jensen have said, come Spa, they are going to be right back up there. I certainly hope that is the case. It's been reported in the press that McLaren are already working on next year's car, and obviously with quite a considerable set of rule changes, new engines and new aerodynamics in terms of the front wing and all this. Who knows what McLaren can pull out of the bag, perhaps even do kind of a Brawn from 2009. So let's see. In short, I hope that their pace continues and their performance continues, and let's just hope they get back to where they should be. They've got some great drivers. I'm a massive fan of Jensen. I have a lot of respect for Sergio. I think he could be a very, 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 influential driver in years to come once he's matured up a bit more. We'll just have to hope that they get back where they should be in the very near future. So Cartman, or CJ Cartman, I should say, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from Leon Cullen, and they actually ask, quite conveniently, a very similar question. Do I think that Formula 1 will see a dramatic change with the turbocharged engines next year? Good question. So, in terms of the speed and everything else, we've been promised no. In terms of, it's going to stay similar. But, with rule changes such as the front wing, the chassis changes, the engine changes, it is going to be different. How so? I'm not really sure, to be honest. The engines, is going to be interesting to see which manufacturers come out the blocks strongest, because we'll have the likes of Ferrari, obviously, Renault, and McLaren, Mercedes producing their engines. But remember, Honda's coming back in 2014. 2015? I forget. They're coming back into the sport, so they'll have a bit more time. Let's see. They'll see where the lay of the land is. And, they will hopefully produce a sterling engine and power McLaren to hopefully some success. We're just going to have to wait and see, I think. It's going to be one of these things where there's going to be a lot of little changes, or, fairly significant changes, and you just kind of have to, see how it all pans out. Ultimately, the thing with Formula 1 and all motorsport is all the cars or all the teams tend to be a little bit different. They have different thoughts and methodologies on things, and it's sort of how it all balances in the wash which decides who's going to win the championship that particular year. So we're gonna have to wait and see. I think, for instance, Mercedes, they've got some very talented engineers. I'm sure their engine's going to be very good. Obviously, they've got the works team now. That seems to be just gaining momentum with more and more personnel and all the rest. So we're just going to have to, I think, see how it happens. I don't see massive changes. I don't see, for instance, Ferrari all of a sudden becoming Marussia. But actually, valid point. Let's talk about the back markers, or the field at the back at the moment. They definitely need to step up their game with these rule changes, and hopefully they will. As I've said already, more competitive competitive teams racing, the merrier, I say. So yeah, I think that wraps that up. Thank you very much to Leon Cullen for that great question there. Next question comes from Red Slayer 006, and they ask, have I ever been to the United States of America, and if so, where? And if not, where would I like to go? So I have been to the US a few times actually, admittedly only once when I can actually remember it. So being half Canadian, I've got relatives obviously around Canada and around Quebec in particular, and yeah, I've gone to Vermont a fair few times, quite a few times when I was a baby, so I can't remember what the deuce was happening there. But the last time I went to the States, I was about, I don't know, 11, 12. Again, we went to Vermont and saw some relatives out there, so it was very, very nice. And actually, we went to New York State as well, now I come to think of it, and you know, just nice to sort of catch up with family. There are places I'd like to go, you know, I'd love to go to, for instance, New York. I'd like to go to Boston, primarily because of the Tea Party. I'm going to get this wrong, see, I didn't do American history, but, you know, the Tea Party and everything else in terms of where the Americans chucked our lovely tea out and all the rest, you know, history. Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few places. Of course, you've got to see the sights in terms of, I don't know, Las Vegas or whatever else. So yeah, plenty of places I'd like to see, and yes, I've been to the States, and very nice it was too. So yes, Red Slayer, thank you very much for that question there. Next question comes from Elliot Hurchala, and they ask, do I think the next generation consoles will be the last, and do I think that sort of tablet gaming or mobile gaming will be the next big thing due to faster microprocessors? Well, so I don't think it'll be the last console generation. The thing with consoles is that they're kind of standardized, and that's the beauty of them, because all of a sudden developers have a single thing to work to, and you know, they're cheaper across, you know, several years and everything to own and maintain. So yeah, I do think that next gen consoles are going to be around for a little while yet. I do think though that Elliot raises a great point here, which is sort of mobile gaming, tablets being one. I don't see them replacing consoles, quite frankly. I think that they have their sort of use in terms of being like a time filler, in terms of, you know, if you're on the train or a bus, it's more practical to get a mobile phone out or something and play, you know, a quick game of Angry Birds or whatever the case may be, rather than say like an Assassin's Creed or anything like that. I do not think that kind of little pick up and play nature, just, you know, everyone's busy, they get 5 minutes to play a game, whatever else, will mean the end of consoles, but I definitely do think that it's going to have an impact. So yeah, I see mobile gaming becoming more and more prevalent, but I don't see consoles going away either. So Elliot, thank you very much for the question, hopefully that answers that for you there. Next question comes from Joe Mould, and they ask, who is my favourite band, and which of the Bond films is the best in my opinion? Right, Bond films. Nice and simple to answer this one, Skyfall. Good lord. First of all, it's an amazing film, but second of all, in terms of like the lore, but you know, the story of James Bond, it's very clever in how it rounds things out. I won't say anything just in case any of you haven't seen it. I recommend going and seeing it if you can. My favourite band, this is very tricky, you see. I like music, but I'm not into music, if you get my meaning, and I kind of listen to a bit of everything. I'm not particularly, you know, say, just solely into, I don't know, rock music or pop music, I don't know. Favourite band, that is really tricky. So like there are plenty of bands I like. So for instance, Feeder, I love Feeder. I like Paramore. As in, actually, I need to quantify that a bit. Since they lost the drummer, not so much. But you know, there's lots of different difficult. Right, I'm gonna have to say it, Jimmy Eat World. Purely because they have kind of music which you can race a car to and have a great time, but also have songs which have great sort of meaning in the lyrics and all the rest. So Jimmy Eat World, there you go, favourite band. Sorted. Joe, thank you very much for your questions there. Next question comes from Jacob Breyer, and they ask, will I be getting The Division when it's released? Yes, and well, they go on to sort of say, you know, playing it with Matt, Mikes and Tom. Yeah, definitely, we saw that and went, yes, that looks awesome. You know, to kind of fill the hole which Rainbow hasn't really filled since obviously Vegas 2 was released. Yeah, we definitely are impressed by that and looking forward to playing it. I'm not particularly kind of a big sort of or massively multiplayer person. You know, I tend to play, I don't know, the most extreme case is 64 players in Battlefield or something. But that looks like something I could get into. I like the RPG elements. I think it looks like a very cool title. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So yeah, I think, well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure the guys are as well. So Jacob, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from Mr. Trophy Nuts, and they ask, well, they say that they've been to quite a few job interviews recently, so on that topic, where do I see myself in 5 years? Good question, classic question to give, obviously, during an interview. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I'll be totally honest, I don't know. I am loving what I'm doing at the moment in terms of, my day job is awesome, it's very difficult, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy my life and, all the things which go on around it. To be brutally honest, I want to be here doing what I'm doing what I love and, giving it my all. You might not win them all, you might not be able to put in your best performance 24/7, but the thing is with life is you've got to give it your best. And if you give it your best, and people appreciate that and they realise that, they're going to appreciate what you do and what you contribute. So, to answer the question, I don't know, but what I do know is that I'll be doing my very best. So, with that, unfortunately, I've run out of time. Thank you very much, guys, for your amazing range of questions, as always. Now, again, if you have any particular kits or anything you'd like me to try out, please do feel free to leave those in the comment section below. And if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, again, please do feel free to leave it in the comment section below. If you could leave a like, dislike, whatever you believe this video deserves, that would be fantastic. And if you're new to my videos, I want to see some more from myself, you can always subscribe. So guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Chuggy. I'll see you next time, out on the battlefield.